Hey everyone, it's PhoneArena. You're watching our in-depth video review of the ViewSonic ViewPad 10, which is a dual boot tablet, both Windows 7 and also Android 1.6. So for those who want the best of both worlds, this might be a great solution, especially if you don't want to spend over $1,000 for it. There isn't anything original about the ViewPad 10's design just because it looks like any other tablet out there in the market. A lot larger than most Android ones just because of the components inside of it pretty much are what you find with any netbook or even laptop. So you do notice a substantial amount of weight over comparable Android tablets out there. It utilizes this cheap feeling black plastic all around the tablet, and in the back you have this faux paw looking brushed aluminum look to it, but in fact it is plastic, so it doesn't give you the best choice of materials. Overall, it's a straightforward approach, and it's definitely not something that comes off as too pleasing to the eye. Unfortunately, the ViewPad 10's display fails to impress us. First of all, it suffers from some poor reviewing angles, which makes it very difficult to view in outdoor conditions under the sun. It sizes up with a 10.1-inch display, so plenty of room. It has a resolution of 600 by 1024 pixels, and unfortunately, it doesn't translate to any spectacular or crisp-looking visuals. It's a little bit difficult to make out even tiniest of text, and there is some pixelation every now and then with certain images here. Color production's on the drab side, very dull looking for the most part, and it just doesn't really come off as something that's spectacular. One of the biggest annoyances that we have with the ViewPad 10 is that the dedicated buttons over here don't correspond to their specific actions in Android. First of all, there is no power button to turn off the display. If you press the one right here, it essentially will just ask you if you want to restart the tablet. When you press the home button here just once, it basically acts as the back button, and if you want to get back to the home screen, you got to hold it down. And finally, you have the back button here, which acts as the menu button in Android, and unfortunately though, there's just a lot of confusion with it. Luckily, they are well sized and easy to press. You're going to have to rely on the front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera for all your needs just because the ViewPad 10 lacks a rear camera. There are quite a few ports on the left edge of the tablet. You have the microphone, you have the 3.5mm headset jack, 2 USB ports. In Android, if you connect a flash drive, it will read any media content in there. You have also a mini VGA port to output video, micro SD card slot to increase its memory capacity, and of course the proprietary power jack. And finally, in the rear, you have the speaker grills right here and right here. You have also the vents for the hard drive just to better dissipate the heat internally with the tablet. Seeing that it's much like a laptop, the ViewPad 10 is powered by an Intel Atom N45 processor, which is clocked in at 1.66 GHz and 1 GB of DDR3 RAM. So when you're on Android, it's running very quick. As you can tell just by navigating between the home screens, it's pretty smooth here. Even launching the app panel here, and even for other things like web browsing, it exhibits a pretty good amount of speed. Sadly though, the ViewPad 10 resorts to using Android 1.6 and is way behind the curve compared to some of the contemporary offerings out there. It's basically a direct port of what you find on most smartphones here. It doesn't take advantage of the tablet size. You still have a lot of customization with the widgets and of course folders to make it a little bit different. If you do a pinch gesture, you get like almost a full view of all your home screens here. For example, you can tell it's not optimized for the tablet just because you can tell with the keyboard it just stretches out the stock Android keyboard and doesn't really enhance it in any way whatsoever. On top of that, there is no blessing from Google, so you don't get the Android market. However, you do get an app store, but it's very limited with its offerings. The web browsing experience is decent depending on how you look at it. Of course, it doesn't offer Flash 10.1 support, but luckily kinetic scrolling is fairly smooth here in its operation. You have multi-touch gesture support to zoom in, zoom out, but as you can tell, it's pretty choppy in its movement. You've got the stock Android music player on board with the ViewPad 10. It might not have any stunning looking presentation visuals, but luckily it's quite functional. In terms of audio quality from the speaker, it's pretty decent, not the loudest out there, but luckily it doesn't crackle at the loudest volume setting. Even though it sports a pretty fast processor for an Android tablet, it still has some issues as far as playing back high-definition videos. The one we have here is encoded in MPEG-4 1280 by 720 resolution. There's a little bit of pixelation going on with it, and on top of that, there are some instances of choppiness to it. On top of that, the most annoying part about it all is if you want to change the volume, unfortunately there is no volume rocker. You got to go into the settings to do that. So here's Windows 7. It took approximately less than 1 minute to fully boot into Windows and get it operational here. Of course, when you click something on the screen, you see that ripple effect going on. And if you want to do a right click, you just generally hold down, do a long press, and it does it for you. Whenever you need to input text, you can actually get access to the virtual keyboards on the left-hand side here. It pops out. Of course, it's very cramped, as you can tell, but luckily it is kind of responsive and it does highlight the keys. It's even more cramped when you're in portrait. As far as web browsing is concerned, you could use Internet Explorer. It is slightly modified, so it enables multi-touch gesture support, so you can zoom in, zoom out, but it does it very slowly, as you can tell here. Luckily though, kinetic scrolling is pretty smooth with it, and of course you have all the advantages of the full desktop browsing experience. You're better off watching videos within Windows 7 as opposed to Android 1.6. We have the same video here encoded in MPEG-4, 1280 by 720 resolution. It's a lot smoother in its playback and no instances of any lag or any even choppiness to it. Don't expect that much to take photos or videos with the ViewPad 10 with its paltry camera. Unfortunately, it lacks a rear-facing camera to better allow you to take photos. And even the ones that we did manage to shoot, they're really overexposed with dull colors. Seeing that one of the primary battery drains with the tablet is the fact that you can't turn off the display at any time. It's consistently running when you're on Android. And with that, we managed to only get 2 hours of normal usage with it, which is far below the expectations of most tablets. So there's no denying that the ViewSonic ViewPad 10 isn't the shiniest Android tablet on the market, especially when it has an outdated Android 1.6 experience that's not customized whatsoever to take advantage of the tablet realm here. On top of that, it sports a really large and hefty design, which pales into comparison to the slimmer offerings with the competition here. But when you take into consideration its starting cost of $600, it's pretty valuable, to tell you the truth, especially when you have Windows 7. You have all the advantages of a laptop at your disposal. You have also some expansion ports, so basically it becomes almost like a desktop, and you get a really nice rounded experience, especially for something that's not going to cost too much, considering that other tablets on the market before this are pretty much priced at the 1,000 and up category. So if you'd like to learn more about the ViewSonic ViewPad 10 or for all the latest cell phone reviews, news specs, and information, you can check us out, PhoneArena.com.